Hello, everyone. Welcome to Real Dad Speak, a show where dads share their stories about being present in their child's life with the goal of raising responsible adults. I am your host, Sarah McClure, and this is my last show of the year, and I thought it would be appropriate to talk about the question that was a catalyst for the show, and the question is, why aren't dads celebrated more? Today, I have three guests. My daughter, who has a podcast that primarily focuses on spiritual healing, and it's called Purple Lotus Flower. It can be seen on YouTube. I have my recent guest, Wendell, who is a positive male figure for his nieces and nephew, and he lives by the adage, it takes a village to raise a child. And last but not least, my producer of this show, Q. They will share their opinions based on their relationships with their dads. Candace's father and I separated when she was 2 years old. Wendell's parents were happily married for 20 years before they divorced. And Q's parents were happily married before his mom passed away a few years ago. So, panel, hello to you, and thank you guys for coming on.
Hello, hello. Thank you for having me.
Hello, thank you for having me again.
All right.
Right.
Question number one, why aren't dads, even a good dad, celebrated or acknowledged more, especially on Father's Day? What's your guys' opinion of that?
Well, Candace, we'll let you go ahead and go first. You're the lady of the group.
Well, I appreciate that. I I'm not really sure about why dads are not really being celebrated, because you have some fathers that are in their kids' life and they are celebrated accordingly. And then you have the dads that are not doing what they're supposed to do, but those come with other reasons behind that as well. So, as my mom mentioned earlier, my dad and her separated when I was 2 years old. Of course, I do not remember any of that. But growing up without my father in the household, it definitely affected me tremendously. So, um, and it carried on with other things, along the way of me growing up, not having him there. Very important, especially for a woman and for little girls, to have their fathers in their life and be there in the household to install certain things, and to show women and little girls how to be treated by a man, how to understand their worth, how to understand their value as a woman, and not looking outside of themselves, and learning from a father that you have to go within as a woman to understand that everything on the outside is not what makes you valuable as a woman. So not having that or understanding that, it kind of put me at a different situation in life where I was actually out looking for love and men and looking for things that I was missing from my father in the wrong places. So with my father having 8 kids, it is different women that's involved. It was kind of hard for my dad to keep up with all of us. Now, I can't really too much speak for him and why these things were happening and why he was in and out of households the way that he was and having kids by different women, but it's kind of hard to celebrate my dad when it comes to Father's Day. I can only speak from that experience with me. I don't even know the last time I actually called my father. And truthfully, I'm being very transparent. I don't know the last time I called my father to tell him Happy Father's Day, let alone today is my dad's birthday. And I haven't even called my dad to tell him Happy birthday. Um, and it's nothing like I'm holding a grudge against my father. I forgave him for things that he did, because a lot of things that may have took place while he was growing up, and whatever the reason was for him not being there and being in and out of these households, that's something that is going to be between him and God, and he has to be able to take a self accountability for those things. But I do know what I can do is forgive him for those things, and then I have to love him from afar. He just does not have the access to me like he did before, because I did have to go through some things. I'm not going to blame my father for a lot of the things that happened to me, but it do play a part when that household is broken up, especially when it comes to, I know with men as well is very big, but girls too, it just plays a huge part in both parts of that kid's life. So that would be my opinion on me not being able to tell my father Happy Father's Day.
Right.
When did
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm so used to directing the conversation. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm out of order.
Oh no, you. I was just getting ready to say the same thing.
Candace, you made some very interesting points, And, the question itself is a pretty intricate question. I think there are a lot of parts to trying to figure out why it is the way it is as far as celebrating fathers. What I can tell you is I recently was scrolling, I think it was Instagram or YouTube, and, just looking at shorts, and I saw two which stood out to me, uh, which when you asked this question, when you posed this question, I immediately thought about those two reels. One of them was a young guy, maybe in his early to mid 20s, and he was ranting about seat warmers, the seat heater in a vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
And his argument was, why, as a man, why would you want to use a seat warmer? And he used a derogatory term for men.
Uh-huh.
And, so I sat there and I watched it, and he's ranting about why a man would want to use a seat warmer that's not masculine and so forth and so on. Okay. Fast forward to the other one. Let's keep scrolling.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a girl, and she's probably around the same age, mid 20s somewhere. And she posted a statement saying that men should not eat soup. Why are men eating soup?
Okay.
It's not masculine. Men should not do it. It's a turnoff. It's a red flag. All these things. If we examine just those two, and there's unlimited amount of other criticisms like those of men for doing simple things. I mean, it's the wintertime. Okay, it's cold outside. I'd rather my seat be warm if I can have it warm than ice cold when I sit on it. To me, that's logic, and it's reasonable and rational to think that way, male or female. Soup is great for you when you're sick. So should I just die? Should I not? Should I not compromise my masculinity and just die instead of having soup? And on my headstone, it says, "Here lies Wendell, who died a masculine man and refused to eat soup." There are so many things like that in society today. And I think the problem, we're looking at a society now where the problem is in full swing and fully developed and grown and just existing. And what we ought to do is go back to the beginning and examine what led us to this point that we are at now. And I think that is a much deeper point, examining those things, than just the result, which is dads not being celebrated. I can tell you it's a question that's been on my mind ever since I learned about Father's Day and Mother's Day, because as a child, I admired both of my parents. I was terrified of them at times, and reflecting on it now, I can say they were very strong individuals who were serious about parenting, and I can say their roles in my life and the lives of my siblings were extremely important, vital, crucial to our development and us being able to grow and integrate into society successfully and be independent, successful individuals. We would have to compare and contrast Mother's Day and Father's Day and examine that. But I think a big part of it stems from masculinity and how we view masculinity. Many of us experience masculinity in a very negative way. Most of those people who voice it are women, and their voices sing a loud chorus about masculinity. And there are many things about masculinity that can be questioned and challenged and should be examined. But I think masculinity as just as a basic thing is not bad. It's a good thing. It's a great thing. Men and women are supposed to contrast each other. So there's masculinity and there's femininity. And without one, the other one is not going to do great. The other one is going to have to assume significant more responsibilities and roles. And so it's supposed to be a balance. Yet dad gets a pair of socks and a screwdriver on Father's Day, and mom gets a sale and presents and celebrated. And it's a question I've pondered for a good amount of time, and I haven't been able to come up with an answer apart from the fact that we raise girls to be princesses and protect them, and they should be loved and cherished, and we raise boys to be tough and be able to handle anything and hide their feelings. Maybe not so much so in society now. Society is very strange now. I can't really relate to a lot of things going on now. But as a child, as I was growing up, that's the way I saw children being parented. Uh, and it always baffled me why if the little girl is playing and she goes down, you pick her up and tell her it'll be okay. But the little boy, he's just going to get up and brush himself off, and that process continues as you grow. Protect women, treat them with respect, and put them on a pedestal. And so you get into motherhood, and those things continue. Whereas with boys, you don't really often hear protect boys, put them on a pedestal, cherish them, and things of that nature. You don't really hear that being put out there by a lot of people. And I think that plays a very, very a huge role in the impact as to how we view things like Mother's Day and Father's Day.
Yeah, that definitely is true.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
I think I probably look at it from a completely different kind of perspective. Like for me, I think that going back to what you said about what women receive for Mother's Day, like all these gifts and sales and roses and all this stuff, right? Which is great. I think every parent deserves whatever they can get. I think essentially this concept comes from marketing, right? So this is all capitalism, all right? And I'm sorry to change the whole perspective of it, but like this is all capitalism, right? So things are sold off of emotions, and mothers like the love of your mother, the nurturing and all of that stuff is emotional. It pulls at your heartstrings. So because of that, marketing is going to be pushed heavily towards that because they're trying to pull your heartstrings, make you buy some stuff. Now for dudes on the other end, like it's kind of an emotional detachment. So now without the emotion, there's no gifts, right? So then we get trained like that. So now that's what we believe it should be. Like that's my dad, he's doing what he's supposed to do. This my mama, she's going out of her way doing this, doing that, and doing these things, which, quiet as kept. There's a lot of moms out here don't deserve some of these gifts they get on Mother's Day, but that's a whole nother conversation, right? But I think that's really what it boils down to is that we've been trained because of capitalism to do that. Like it's even bigger than just like who needs to be celebrated and who doesn't. Like people, the whole world is a marketplace. We're just trying to sell stuff, and then we get caught in that paradigm, and that's where we at with it.
Yeah, you got Valentine's Day, you got all kind of stuff that's made for money.
Yeah.
That's it. That's why I don't celebrate all of that stuff.
Yeah,
Because
and
it is a way to make
it
money.
make you think and act a certain way. Yeah.
I can agree with that to an extent, but the reason why I have difficulty agreeing with that 100% is because okay, you can celebrate parents, right? Sure. And yes, there is the aspect of capitalism involved in it as well. Things are women are like make up 80% of the consumers market. A huge percentage, right? They do most of the buying. And so obviously capitalism comes to play a role in that. But when you talk about something like Mother's Day or Father's Day, it's significantly more personal. It's not like a 4th of July sale or a Labor Day sale or celebration where that's for everybody. Mother's Day and Father's Day is more personal. It's intimate. It's your actual mom or your actual dad, your family. It starts there, and then it vibrates outwards to how you view other men and other fathers and other women and other mothers. That radiation, as it pertains to women, is synchronized. Women will celebrate each other no matter what, whereas men generally don't tend to celebrate each other. Right?
True.
Yeah. So there's that factor where men are just not necessarily accustomed to being celebrated to begin with. There's an awkward element because you're like, well, you don't really like gifts or people celebrating you, so what do I do for you? And the personal factor is a lot of us don't have great relationships with our fathers. Society doesn't necessarily celebrate fathers to that extent. And so those two things combined keeps us from, having strong ties with Father's Day. So I
And
think it's a,
just kind of, I just want to jump in real quick about what you just said right there. The crazy thing about it though, it's true what you said, but also it's a lot of uh it's a lot of mother relationships that's terrible too. But for whatever reason, we give those relationships validity and we'll cancel out the dad for having the same terrible relationship
Relationship
though.
that the
That's
mom would
crazy.
have. Yep.
Yeah.
Hmm.
there is an
Hey.
imbalance to it. I don't think there ever will be a balance to it in perspective, simply because of the way, there are a lot of institutions in society which some necessarily so protect women,
Hmm.
but there are also others who uh, put divide between men and women. And those
Hmm.
institutions are exceedingly powerful and influential. It's in media, it's in the laws. It makes it difficult as a man. I can only speak from a man's perspective. It makes it difficult at times to maneuver because you're not really sure what is okay and what is not okay based on societal standards. Uh, Being celebrated is not really a big thing for me. I don't like huge parties or anything like that. If it was like my birthday or something, if a couple people come over and hang out and we celebrate that way, that's fine. But I don't need like a whole hurrah.
I
Mothers,
mean,
you birth a child, that is a huge feat in and of itself to create life in another
hmm
human, and so that warrants celebration. Now the fact that many households don't have fathers and many children are raised without positive male figures in their lives, it it puts a stain on fathers. It puts a stain on Father's Day. So regardless of how you feel about it, I think moms are going to be celebrated no matter what, because it's Mother's Day. It's for the birth of the child. It's for bringing the life into the world. But the fact that there's so many negative connotations associated with being a father and being a dad, I think it's difficult for a lot of people to, for the celebration to resonate the same way on Father's Day as it does on Mother's Day.
Yeah.
I'm
No,
at
I
the
can.
point
Yeah,
where
I
I
can
feel
agree.
as though it don't even have to be celebrated every year because it also seeks validation for some people. Like if you always having to celebrate a mother every single year all that time, it's like celebrate me every day. I'm a mom, I'm a father every single day doing what I'm supposed to do. So don't wait one time out of the year to look for that validation from the world, from your family and everybody else. So it's like if you're a good dad, you're a good dad. This is what you know within yourself. So you don't have to look for anybody to tell you that. So some men as well don't even look for it because they should be able to celebrate that within and know what they're doing on a daily basis of them being a good father. Why should we have society to tell you if you're a good dad or not? Like you should already know that. So whether they tell you that or not, or you're celebrated or not, just within yourself and between you and God, you already know and your family. So really don't be upset if it's not being celebrated because everything that's happening in society right now is a whole seeking validation situation. It's an unfair
Hmm.
comparison for everything that's across the board. So you have a long list of things that father's supposed to do and husband's supposed to do. You have, well, not even a whole list of women of what they want and then what guys is expecting out of a woman. But this stuff is based on society lists, not what it really is. So you'll look at a father and say, "Oh, you're supposed to do this," and you have mom, she's supposed to do this. I mean, who really says all of that stuff? Like that's adding pressure. It put pressures on the men. It put pressures on. It's a lot. So to be honest with you, if you already know that you're a good father, it's like, why are we even having to do all of this anyway? Just for
I,
that one time out of the year. Like you just
there
know who
there are a
you
lot of
are.
there are a lot of people who think they're good parents who are not.
Yeah.
And
True.
that's
That's
not, but
just the
that's
facts.
not, and that's just not nobody else's problem. That's something that,
I
whose
think it does.
problem is that?
I think it can be problematic if someone who is a horrible parent is being celebrated just
Oh
because they're
yeah,
a parent.
that part, yeah, most definitely. I thought you were saying like the dads that's not being celebrated. Oh yeah,
No, I
understood.
mean, most I think most fathers, most dads, they feel however they feel about it, but they're not going to project that outward because I think dads would be more appreciative of smaller things, smaller celebrations. You know,
Mhm.
there are ways men, generally speaking, based on my experience as a man, we don't need to be celebrated out loud for anything, almost ever.
Mhm.
Okay, if you needed to get something done and it was exceedingly important to you, and I'm your partner, and I get it done for you, and it was difficult, and I get home and you're home and there's dinner, I feel great.
There you go.
Okay. I
Yep.
overcame that challenge and you fed me for it. That's fine.
And
That's
those
I'm
are
good
the
with that.
wins. Those are the wins I'm talking about throughout your
Right?
days and every day from your wife, from your kids. That's all
Right.
within the household. So I get it. That's what I'm saying about this big thing about this Father's Day thing. Like, that's what I told my mom. Like, I understand the question, but it's like it goes to this right here. Why are we even having to worry about that? Whether they're celebrated or not out loud. Like, because I'm getting what you're saying. You have men that's like you and other men that just like every day I come home, my wife is kissing on me saying how amazing I am, or I fixed the roof and my wife is just praising me, or whatever. Some guys is okay with that part. They're looking from it within and not from the outside. So making this Father's Day thing big, it's kind of, nah, it's getting a
Well,
little
I,
old now.
you know what the issue is. Like you said, you don't know why this is a thing. It's a thing because there's always going to be, unfortunately, a constant competition between men and women, especially
Yeah.
black men and black women. It's like
Hmm.
we always trying to figure out who getting done the worst in corporate America. We're trying to
Yep.
figure out who's the most overlooked. Trying to figure out who
Hmm.
does the most in the household. Like there's always a constant competition between men and women, and that's where this conversation even stems from. Like for instance,
Hmm.
if that wasn't the case, we wouldn't care that we just got a tie for Father's Day because there's a
Hmm.
constant competition to figure out why is the mom more important than me or why is the father more important than me. Like just work together. Like and you know what? That's easy for me to say because I don't
Yep.
have any kids. I
Hmm.
get that. I understand that part,
Yep.
right? So I know that's definitely
Hmm.
easy for me to say, but I wish things really were that simple, and apparently they're
I
not.
don't think it's enough. As I told my mom last night, I don't think it's enough alpha men in the physical form, not just
Hmm.
spiritual with God, because you have men that fears God, that is able to self-master themselves and become disciplined enough to be able to sustain families and do what they supposed to do as the father in the household, and they won't ever be separated from the household or their kids. So if you have enough alpha males, and I'm going to go back to generation, even starting with my father. I don't really know my grandfather and how he raised my father. I know that my grandfather was an alcoholic. I know that my grandmother, husband that she married, that was my stepfather, my dad's stepfather, he was very abusive physically to my grandmother. So my dad not having an alpha male in his life, not understanding the power of God and the source within him to provide that fear in him as a man, to know to do what he's supposed to do as a man, all of that stuff creates problems also in the household of a man. So now my dad is faced with all of these different things around him, abusive relationships and alcoholic. So it's like, how is he going to grow up and be able to teach his kids, which is eight of us, what it is that supposed to happen, where now you can't even explain these things to your kids and sustain a household with any other women that you with. You can't. And my brothers are following your footsteps, so my brothers are drinking alcohol and doing things that they aren't supposed to, being abusive to women. Not only are your daughters and me, I've been a victim as well of sexual abuse, emotionally abuse, and all kind of stuff from other men. Watching
Mm.
your father as a woman and seeing the things that they're doing, it's like, where do it end at? So you have to go back to these generations and find out, why is it we don't have enough alpha males that's doing what they supposed to do in society to help other men and other boys grow up to be what they supposed to be, or teaching them you need to align with God, do self mastery on yourself, go inward, because society tells men that being vulnerable and talking is not good, or communicating your feelings is not good. So now you end up with all these men that don't even want to talk and express themselves because of what society is saying now, or they don't have a father in their life. They don't have a blueprint to have a father to teach them things. It's going to come a time where, as a man, you're going to have to create your own blueprint. You're going to have to be able to go inward and know that I have to heal these broken wounds that I have within, because other than that, it's going to come out in anger. It's going to come out in domestic violence. It's going to come out where you're emotionally, physically, and verbally and spiritually abusing the woman that's around. You have a woman as a feminine God. She's here to assist you and support you. But if you don't even know how to value that woman that's in front of you, because you can't even see her value because you don't even know who you are as a man, who's teaching you that. So that's another problem also that stems that's coming from that end. So if you have enough God fearing men and it's taught that way, guess what that woman gonna do? She gonna fall right in place into her feminine energy.
So,
A
so,
lot of
so
times,
this is the question.
if she's already a whole woman, because you have women that has did the inward work, you have women that has healed, you have women that knows their value. All women don't know their value. You ask them, well, what do you have? They'll start naming outside things of their job and their this and that and the other, and they're not naming within and what it is that they can do to support or whatever the case may be. They'll name all of the wrong things, but it starts there too when it comes to young girls. That's just coming from me with my father
Yeah.
and my experience and what I went through and the things I went through, not having my dad as that alpha man in my life that's actually
Mhm.
showing me that. You have women that have that
So
I've seen, and they might turn out a little bit different.
I just always have a question with this, and Sarah, actually, I don't know if you can answer as well, because this is a question for women. I've always had a question about this. I understood everything that you're saying. Where in there does the man being an alpha have to do with any of the other things that you said? And that's the part I'm trying to figure out, because I think what happens is we get confused with alpha translating into masculinity. I think
Nah,
is
I'm not
I,
speaking
no,
on that.
no, I
I'm
said
just saying a
we.
man is
I said we
oh,
do. I think that men do. So like
oh,
when
okay.
women say that you're not an alpha male, we feel like the opposite of an alpha male is someone with less masculinity. So
No,
there's
that's
some.
just someone that's having assertiveness and the willpower
Hold on,
to
Candace. You
do what
can't
they
say
do.
no, because I said this is what
Hmm.
men feel. You can't answer for us.
Oh, that's what men feel. Okay.
this is, I'm talking about. This is how men feel. Wendell probably can second on that. Like, some men that if you tell them they're not an alpha male, it's offensive. But why is that?
Mm.
Because we've got a negative connotation with the word alpha and beta, like we do. Most men aren't alphas. Somebody told them they was an alpha, so they think they got to do certain things, and they think that
Mhm.
if they over promote masculinity, that makes them an alpha. It doesn't though. But a lot of
Right.
people don't understand that, and that's where a lot of
Mhm.
confusion between men and women
So
come
what's
in. At.
the definition of an alpha man for Candace, and then for Q? What's the
Mm-hmm.
definition, Candace, for
I
alpha?
feel like it's just a man that's very assertive and he's able to be able to discipline himself in all areas of his life so that he can
Mm-hmm.
sustain family and his finances and whatever else that he has to do. I don't look at it like he has to be so masculine and it's none of that for me. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what society has taught men. Like you saying, that's what men is
Yeah.
thinking. I don't know. So they have to go and find that and look that up and figure out who they are.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's just common sense to be a man that is willingness that has the willpower, the motivation to change and better himself. Like the knowing. We're in the age of the Aquarius right now. I'm an Aquarius. That is the knowing. Like I know. That means you already know what it is. You know, you do better. And a lot of men, you have some that has the motivation to do that. You have some that has not. So why is it that is not happening? You have women too. I'm not just speaking just on men, but women too. And we're talking about fathers at this point. You have
Mm-hmm.
some fathers that's not willing to change and go within and heal themselves due to childhood traumas or due to how they were raised, but it affects the child. And then it goes back to why is that father being celebrated? Like my dad, he has some things that he's been traumatized. I have no clue what it is. My dad does not talk. He does not speak on it. My father probably feels as though he don't have a sacred space or he never had a space to be able to talk to somebody about his issues. So it turns into anger and it turns into
Yeah.
physical and it turns into verbal abuse that I've received from my father because of him being angry and things that he's been through. I don't know what my father has been through. I still don't know to this very day. And I'm almost 40
Mm-hmm.
years old. He won't talk about it. So for
Mm-hmm.
me to celebrate somebody that's been abusing me for 39 years is like, what do you do with that?
Right.
And I've
I
been
hear you.
chasing my dad. I'm not going to chase nobody to love me. We shouldn't chase people. I attract people with my love. I am love and light, so I don't have to go and chase anybody. And my dad, I was chasing him for 30 something years trying to find out, why doesn't my dad love me? Why can't I get love? Why am I being treated this way? And I still would never know. And I've tried to have several conversations with him. So, like I said, that's between him and God. And I have to leave that where that is and forgive my father. And I pray that, that he will get over that one day.
Q, what's your definition of an alpha man, or what do you believe the definition of alpha man means? Because you say it has a negative connotation when you tell a man that he's not an
Yeah.
alpha.
I mean, because for me, when I think about alphas, betas, that kind of relationship, I think of a unfortunately, I think of a pack of wolves, right? So I feel like a lot of times men in their circle, we are like packs of wolves. And that's a competition within our own community, right? That's just a community of men, period. So for me, for someone to tell me, and again, this is just from my perception, I feel like if someone is testing my alpha, you know what I'm saying, persona, then it means that they're calling me soft. And for someone to be soft, I don't think that women believe a soft male is able to lead a family. So now we putting those two together, and it's not necessarily even meaning that. Like for me, there
Mm-hmm.
there is a there are leaders who are assertive, and there are leaders that are passive. I know passive is
Mm-hmm.
like a dirty word. It's like you can't be a passive person and get anything done, and that's ultimately not true. If you just look at history, like there's been a lot of passive leaders who have done some damage and some great things. But that title of, like you said, being assertive, I think that you do have to be assertive to a certain degree, but there are some males who just don't fit that norm. And so now
Mm-hmm. They
they
don't.
feel like, right, and they just feel like now they don't fit the mold as what a male who leads a household should be. So now not only are we battling ourselves, but we're battling the perception of black women. Like because we already feel like in our circle thinks that we're not an alpha, right? Let's just say you got a male who I mean, there's a lot of words we can use. Like I won't use all those words, but we'll say like there's some pushovers and some people that you know that you can take advantage of. Like you don't ever want to be that person. Like I don't care if you're a male or a female, you never want to be that. And that's what the word beta is. That's how it's related. So now if I'm not an alpha, then that means I must be someone who can be pushed over. And nobody wants to be pushed over. Right? So
Where's a
I
time where it's going to come where it's a lot of men? Okay, let's take Alpha out of the situation and just go back
mm,
to men that's actually being able to hold each other accountable. Because
okay.
I don't know how many men you can name on one hand that's around you at this point that's going to hold you accountable for things that you know is not right, that can help you to be better and do what you're supposed to do. So,
Certainly.
meaning going back to once again generational. Back in the day, a lot of men, probably your age, Q, you look for your father. Is your father
Hmm.
looking at your granddaddy, and so on and so on? So that curse has to be broken somewhere. So as you being maybe the generational curse breaker now, which I know I am, you being a
Hmm.
generational curse breaker now, where do you start at where you can have a group of men that gets
Hmm.
together? Not the red pill group. We ain't talking about them Negroes, okay? But we're
No.
talking about the red pill group. I don't know if y'all know
Right.
about them, but it's a lot of men that's in a group that's able to hold each other accountable and pull them in and say, this is the way you do this and do that. Married, it could be married men, it could be men that wants to be married, it could be just a group of strong men because we're better and a force together. But it's not a
Hmm.
lot of men because there's so much competition. Well, number one, men are very competitive. Y'all very territorial. So it's like, can we get that to where it's together and then you can bring younger boys in and just men even your age to help them so that we can have better households and better ways to be able to treat some of these women in the household and understand so you don't get that the single parent household like we don't have anything really in play like that. So that's
Hmm.
causing another problem too. Like it's so many dynamics to the reason why it's broken relationships, broken households. It's a lot, and it plays on both ends. It's not just men; it's women too, because women has to be better at picking and choosing. A
Oh,
lot of
facts.
women don't even know how to choose men at this point because once again they're on Facebook and I'm one of them. I'm not just talking to be judgmental because I've been one of
Mm,
those women before. I've chose wrong. I've been married 3 times. And all
mm,
three of those times I learned lessons from every single last one of those marriages. And sometimes we have to understand when people come into your life and you have a relationship versus a, a partnership. So you have a relationship where that causes a connection, right? So you getting connected with somebody. If you coming into a relationship and you a whole person, which meaning you have self-love for yourself, you unconditionally love yourself, you love God, you're pulling from source, you align with who you are, and you masters yourself, and then you have the next person that's supposed to be in a relationship with you, they are seeking lack. Maybe they are lacking maybe confidence. So you coming in and you're giving them that part that they need, and now you're being what drained out. The balance is not where it's supposed to be. Everything is about
mm,
balance. So you have two whole people together. When you have two whole people that's inversed together that has that same unconditional love for themselves and for God and everything else, now you have a partnership. Now we can build because now you're not draining from me and I'm not draining from you, right? That right there helps a relationship move further and it helps you to build. Now you can be able to build legacy and abundance and everything else. But when you have people that's broken and they're trying to make this work because they're seeking lack in each other, that's a problem. All of my marriages, it was lack somewhere that I had going on. So I'm seeking validation from either them for love or not knowing I got love within myself. As a woman,
mm,
you should already know you have to love yourself first before you can love somebody else. And you also got to love God as well. But that man has to do the same thing. That causes breakups and disconnection in relationships as well because you're searching for something. You're needing this
mm,
person for all these things because when she disappears and she stopped, you could push and push and push and push motivation to that partner, tell them this and that and the other. But when you're gone and you pull back that, are they gonna still be able to stand 10 toes down without you, or are they gonna fall to the wayside again?
mm.
They got to be able to hold it down on their own, and that's on both sides of the fence. That's how you're able to keep it together. They can teach your kids and so on and so on. But do y'all have anybody, and I'm asking y'all as men, do y'all have at least 5 men in your circle right now that you can call that holds you accountable? If you call and say, man, I'm about to cheat on Karen, we're gonna say Karen.
Karen.
I'm about to cheat on Karen. I ain't going home. I'm tired of her. I'm this and that, another. And your homeboy, hold on, boy, hold on. Let me tell you something. And he gonna drop them gems on you and make you go back in that house and make it work.
Mm-hmm,
Do we have that, or do you have those friends that you dealing with that they okay with that? Man, go on, do what you gotta do. That's a problem.
mm-hmm.
And it's
Yeah,
in women too. It don't
it's
just
not
go for men, but it's women as well.
it's not normal, and
Was
that's why I always say that I've been extremely lucky with my circle of friends. So
was that an actual
Mm-hmm.
question? You wanted an answer for that?
Mm-hmm. Do you have some men in your life like that?
I know a lot of good men.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, most of the men I know, I would say I would categorize them as good men.
Good. It's very, I don't hear that a lot.
I, I'm I'm not sure if you saw the last podcast, but I'm a huge advocate uh, of men. I feel like society does not necessarily advocate for men, and I feel
No,
like a
they
lot of
don't.
society might feel like it's not necessary to advocate for men.
It's
But
big and necessary.
I'm a huge advocate for men, uh, personally, because I'm a man, and B, I believe in fairness. And
Mm-hmm.
so if we're going to advocate for women, which I 110% agree with, we ought to do the same for men. The original question
Mm-hmm.
was about the celebration of Father's Day,
Mm-hmm.
right? Celebration, in a sense, is kind of like advocacy, right?
Mm-hmm.
mm-hmm,
Why is there an imbalance? A part of the reason is the question is always raised, uh, but what about? So your focus is on one gender, maybe men, And someone will raise the question, but what about women? Women do this, women do that,
Mhm.
instead of addressing the point about men.
Mhm.
I hold every person accountable, male or female, me personally.
Mhm.
I hold myself accountable first, so I have the moral high ground to stand on when I hold someone else accountable. How can
Mhm.
I tell you not to do that if I'm doing it?
Mhm.
I had an experience not too long ago. It was a very negative experience. I learned some very valuable lessons from it. And I have a friend who may potentially have a similar experience. And I have tried to dissuade him from pursuing the avenue that he is pursuing, which may lead him down that road. And his response to me was, since you had your experience, now you're advocating for not doing that particular activity. And I said, yes, I learned a lesson from it. And it was a very
Mhm.
valuable lesson. And because I don't want you to experience it, I'm sharing that with you. That's my perspective. I'm going to hold myself accountable. I'm going to hold him accountable. I'm going to hold her accountable. You spoke to Lynn. We kind of swayed off the topic slightly and ventured into a lot of what I would categorize as criticism of men. And warrantedly so, if you're not doing the right thing, you have earned criticism. Society is very critical, and that's okay. It kind of forces you to either be better or remain the same. But
Mhm.
the topic was the celebration of men and what the reason is that it's not as pronounced as the celebration of women for Mother's Day. And the drifting to the other points I thought was very interesting because I find that to be something that happens whenever that conversation is brought up. But what about the men who aren't good dads? But what about the men who aren't there? But and so that doesn't necessarily address why men aren't being celebrated, but now it raises those other points and brings them to the forefront.
Mhm.
Alpha male, alpha men. I'm a huge fan of language.
Mhm.
The words king and queen are thrown around in common language by commoners, peasants, on a regular basis.
For
She's a
sure.
queen. He's my king. And whenever I hear these things, immediately in my head, I say to myself, show me your empire. Where is the throne upon which you sit? Where are your subjects that you rule? All these things which apply to a monarch, which is what a king is, or a queen. I don't ever do it. I've done it, as a joke without the other person knowing I was joking, but, using those words in that context because I don't believe we should be doing that because it sets a terrible precedent. One, your ego goes through the roof. You get to believing you're an actual king when you're not, or a queen when you're not. Two, the words become uh, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not diluted
Mhm.
to where the actual meaning of it now, it doesn't it's not relative to the actual meaning. You can apply it to anyone. Anyone can be a king then, I guess. If this guy, we're calling him a king. He's homeless, he doesn't have anything, and he's a king. How is he a king? Where is his empire? How is she a queen? She's got 7 kids by 9 different guys. You go, queen, slay.
He said
Really?
slay.
That's their Facebook and Instagram.
These are kings and queens? What does that make me? Like the ultimate peasant? Because I'm not ruling over an empire last time I checked, right? Alpha. The word alpha means, uh, I believe, as it relates to humans, it means like socially dominant. Okay. And you spoke about being assertive and several other things as it relates to being an alpha male. and then you continued to express the effects of not having alpha males in society and so forth and so on. I disagree with you wholeheartedly. I say
Mhm.
go to a construction site.
Mhm.
Go. Go ahead. Get you a construction job and get on that job site. Go there in the wintertime. Go there when the site is bare bones steel and the iron workers are putting up that steel. Okay? You want to see alpha men? You'll see some guys out there. Go to any construction site, you will see them. Go in a business where someone who is a male is running that business. Oftentimes, these are alpha males in society. They don't go around boasting the fact that they're alphas. That's probably not an alpha male. They
Mhm.
show their dominance with their work, and that's how you determine who they are. Proof is in the pudding. They live who they are. They lead by example. Uh, they're exceedingly accountable. There are so many other qualities to being an alpha male, but the primary one is being dominant and being a leader. Like Q said, when you initially started going down that path, the first thought I had was a wolf pack. And what does the alpha and the wolf pack do? He leads the pack, he protects the pack, and ensures that his line continues. Same thing with lions and many other animals, gorillas, and so forth and so on. Humans are the only ones who tend to deviate from that because those animals don't deviate whatsoever. And when that alpha male who's been leading the pack for however long gets old or he gets injured, the rest of the males take him out. It doesn't necessarily mean they weren't alphas. It just means he was the most alpha of all of them, and that's how he got into that leadership role. So to
Mhm.
consider that and then related to humans, there are a lot of alphas just standing around you all the time, but maybe they're not necessarily in that leadership role. So that
Mhm.
dominance, that assertiveness, if you will, doesn't necessarily project, but they're there. The alpha male is the guy that sees the lady getting assaulted that he doesn't know and steps in. Okay, the alpha male is the firefighter who runs into the burning building when everyone else is running out. We alpha males. I'm not going to use myself, but alpha males are all throughout society. We're regular people. They're not all Fortune 500 CEOs. They're not all wealthy. They're not all handsome, but they are. We are here. We're here. We're definitely here. We're everywhere. It's not for a lack of alpha males in society. I think it's more of a lack of people knowing what their roles are, accepting their roles, and playing their roles to
Mhm.
the best of their ability.
So how as a collective do you, this is what I'm asking, how as a collective, you being one of those men, being the advocate for men, how are you able to help as a collective and on your part to help with that? To
I can't
like
help as a
what do
collective.
you do?
I can do what I can do as an individual. I
Mm-hmm.
have I have nieces and nephews, and I can give you their numbers and their social media contacts, and you can communicate with them without me prompting them, without me having any prior discussion, and you can ask them about me, and they will tell you. I lead by example. That's the to me that's one of the foremost ways a person can show leadership is by
Mm-hmm.
example. And
Yeah.
if that example is impactful enough to a person to cause them to make a change in their life, then good, so be it. My job is done. But I'm going to continue being that way, regardless of how they're impacted. It's not up to me to decide how someone is going to respond to me as a person, but it
Mm-hmm.
is up to me to dictate to them who I am and how I am as a person. I can't control what every other guy does in society. But when I run into a person and I have a conversation with them, the impact that I leave on them is going to be felt. They're going to understand This guy might be funny. He might be able to make jokes, but he's not somebody you're going to play around with. Okay. The
Mm-hmm.
the being an alpha male is not something you wear on your shoulder. It's not an article of clothing that you're going to see. It's how you carry yourself as a person. And more often than not, these kind of guys are not the people that are in the front of the line. You know, they're in the pack. They're there. There is an alpha of the pack for sure, but there are multiples there ready to take that role if something happens to him. You know, and furthermore, again, there has to be balance.
Mm-hmm. Most
Okay,
definitely.
if I've got to go out into the world and face the world and all it has to throw at me, and then I'm going to come home to my place of peace. It's supposed to be peace. If I
Mm-hmm.
come home and I'm constantly subjected to disrespect, uh, I'm in constant conflict with my partner. This is now no longer a place of peace.
Right.
Okay, me personally, it's hard to say how I would directly respond to it, but it's not going to be positive. It's not going to be a good thing. It's going to engender negative feelings because not only am I faced with the challenges of the world, now I'm faced with the challenges at home as well. I don't want to come home
Mm-hmm.
to a challenge. This part should be easy. Okay,
Yep.
that out there is hard. I gotta go up
Mm-hmm.
there. I'm an iron worker. I gotta climb the steel and install these steel beams. I could die at work. Me
Mm-hmm.
personally, I could actually die at work every day. I don't sit in the office, not knocking office people, but I'm saying my job is difficult.
Mm-hmm.
It's strenuous. It's laborious. It's physically draining. And then I have to
Yep.
come home and argue with this woman. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
has their role to play. You got
Yep.
to play your role too. If you want me to
Mm-hmm.
be the leader, then you got to follow. If I'm the
Mm-hmm.
alpha, then you have to follow. If I'm the
Mm-hmm.
king, you got to be a part of my subjects, if you will. I mean, don't look at that as a disrespectful thing. It's not demeaning. It's not degrading because we
No,
work
this is
together,
absolutely right.
and that's
Mm-hmm.
how we find success. But people don't like their roles. Some people don't
Mm-hmm.
like their roles. They don't want to accept them. That's your role. That's what you do. That's what you're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
Now I got to combat you because you don't want to do your role. I'd rather
Mm-hmm.
be on my own. I'm gonna lead my own pack of one and and survive on my own because at least I know what to expect with the world, and I don't have to combat anyone else. I'll find a home, I'll make a home, and it will be peaceful. And
Mm-hmm.
honestly, I'm gonna be honest with you, ladies. Q, I think I can speak for you as well.
Mm.
The overwhelming majority of men, that's all they want is peace because their world is
For sure.
chaos. Okay,
Yep.
Mm.
men
Mm-hmm.
do not thrive for the most part in chaos. Women tend to thrive in chaos. My mom, I'll give you an example, keeps a very clean house, exceedingly clean. She hates a mess. She has no problem with a clutter. She has more towels than I've seen in the hotels. And I'm like, Mom, why do you have so many towels and blankets? She could run her own hotel, no problem. Why do you have so many towels? You got more than enough to supply a store, and you buy more. But why? Let's say that was my wife, and she was buying towels. Now I come home and I address the towel issue, and now we're in conflict because you know what? She wants to buy towels, and that's what she's gonna do. We're not on the same page. Not
Mm-hmm.
only that, that puts me in a position where my leadership is compromised. Because if I'm saying to you, it's a problem that you buying all these towels. One, we don't have a place to put them. We out of space, so now we got to generate and create more space for towels. Two, you're spending money on these towels. Three, they're just sitting in the closet and nobody's using them. You know, and
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna have contention that way. Everyone has to accept their role. Know your
Mm-hmm.
role. You're not going to be in the leadership position all the time. In fact, I think where a lot of women mess up, and I don't really want to speak about women. I was really just addressing some of the things you said, specifically speaking about alpha men and a lack thereof in society. But as it relates to women, I find that a lot of women uh, tend to find it degrading to accept their role in a relationship, which is to say, the guy has a role. He knows his role. There's no question about it. And if he has a deficiency, you're going to let him know.
Mm-hmm.
You, just the same exact way as he has a role, you have a role as well. But if I address the deficiency, now it's a problem.
Facts.
And if he
It can't
listens, so
it
you
can't
are
work.
absolutely
It
right.
can't work like that. It can't work like that.
Mm-hmm.
When I think about it, the way I think about it is a ship at sea, and we're sailing and we're trying to get to paradise, right? I'm the captain. Let's just get that straight, okay? That means I'm responsible for the ship. If pirates come to attack us, it's my responsibility to figure out how to keep them off of us. If you know we're running out of food, it's my responsibility to figure out how we're gonna ration the food so everybody can eat and survive, so forth and so on. You are the navigator. Navigate. Tell me which way we need to turn the boat to get it in the wind to get us closer to our destination.
Mm-hmm.
Help me get us there. That's your job. Accept your role, do your role as a navigator. It's not your job to tell me how to conduct the battle when the pirates are attacking us.
Right.
Let me. I
Mm-hmm.
know my role. I'm gonna do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I accept it. I'm gonna do my role. It's your job to navigate us away when we beat them off and they're chasing us.
Absolutely agree with you.
Everyone,
You have
everyone.
men that don't know their role. You have a lot of them too that don't know, and women don't know either. So I get it. I'm totally in agreement with you of that. I want to take my cape off. I don't want
I
to
think,
sit up there and do it. I want to sit in the
but
seatbelt in the passenger seat and slap up and go. So I agree.
there's a difference between being ignorant to what your role is, and that's just a lack of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
You can gain knowledge, and not
Mm-hmm.
wanting to do your role because you disagree with it.
Very true.
There's a huge divide
Mm-hmm.
between those two things. Most women know what men want. They pretend like they don't,
Mm-hmm.
but men will tell you straight up, this is all I want is somebody that cook, clean. You meet a guy, he gonna ask you if you can cook. That's all. That's what he wants.
Mm-hmm.
Are you gonna take care of the home? Because while you're home, I'm taking care of all the other things that's gonna keep home safe. That's my job, and I accept that. I'm gonna wake up every morning. I'm gonna go to this job. I'm gonna do the task. We're gonna get paid. I'm gonna bring the money home and take care of home. I know my role completely. That's the role I accept. That's the role I'm in. That's the role that I'm going to perform. I have no issue with that. I'm okay with that. I'm totally fine with that. I would rather do that than be at home and have you go out and work, okay,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
and do all that stuff. Now, your role is the home, then, right? It becomes the home.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You can choose to work if you want to. You don't have to. That's your choice. Don't let your choice now become a burden on our home. I didn't tell you to go out and work. You wanted a career so you could be independent, have money, and I don't know what else, show out for your girlfriends that you can do it. Whatever. I don't understand what it is, but whatever it is, that's what you
Mm-hmm.
wanted to do. I said you don't have to do any of that. I'm going to provide and protect. You wanted to go.
Mm-hmm.
So now you out there in the world, you stressed out because you got to work. It's awful, I know, right? Welcome. You're stressed out because you got to be in the workforce. You're stressed out because you got to come home and take care of the home after you work. You're stressed out, and and there's all this additional stress.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to just sit at home and be a housewife. You don't. Why some women think that a man just wants them to sit at home and pop out babies and cook? it's
Because
that's
they're
that's it's a
watching Atlanta Housewives. They're watching the wrong stuff.
it's a ludicrous premise. That's not
Yes.
what men want. Okay, explore your talents, develop talents, do whatever you want. You got the whole day. It's 8 to 10 hours.
Women are
It's about
creative.
12 hours before I get to you. With my shift that I work, is I'm leaving home an hour early and getting home an hour late, and working 10 hours in between. So you got half the day to learn a skill or a talent, and
Yeah, run your little
use
business
that to
on.
entertain yourself. You got half the day to do whatever you want. You could clean the house
Mm-hmm.
and prepare everything in the first 6 hours, and then the other 6 hours you go and do whatever you want. You don't have to go get a job. Why are you gonna go out there and be stressed? Why are you challenging me at home when I ask or instruct you to do something? When I'm the alpha male and I'm leading the home, I'm in the leadership role.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you challenging me? But you go out there and work for a boss And if he tell you to do something, you hop to it, no problem. I'll get it done.
Mhm. Mhm.
So,
Yes, boss.
so your
Yes,
man, your
sir.
husband, who's providing and protecting you, you're gonna challenge him all the way to the bank. But the boss, you're just gonna do whatever he say, just whatever. That is the most bizarre thing to me is the way we conduct society today,
Yep,
and
and
that's
you
why
think
it's,
about it comes from fathers too, not being able to show their daughters that too. Some, not all of them. And see, you're speaking that coming from you. Yes, that is correct what you're saying, but all men are not in that same position you're in to be able to do what you're doing and saying what you're saying. And you have it's guys that don't even know their role. They don't even know who they are. They haven't mastered themselves yet to be in that position to say everything that you're saying. I understand that. And then you
this is
have
abs-
women
this
that have not healed themselves and been through so many situations that they haven't even found out who they are. They don't know their role as a woman either, not knowing just as well as that man, that vision and those goals he's have. You have to be able to see that man's vision too. You have to be able to see his goals as well in order to be able to support him. And you have to also know, like you said, you in the house, you don't have to work, but when you're there, do something. Like me, I would run a small business from home or something, or whatever the case may be. I totally agree with that. But we're speaking on it's a lot of them that don't know their role. So that's why I was asking, is there some type of and you're saying you're not called for the collective, but we have men that is called as a collective, as a leadership to maybe assist with this or help some type of way to where it can come together. We keep watching Instagram and TikTok and they're learning how to have relationships off of housewives and love and hip hop. It's ridiculous. So how are we ever going to get there, what you're talking about, if we have fathers that's not being raised like that in the households to show their daughters and vice versa? Like, how do we get here?
allow fathers to be fathers. That's how we do it. Allow
Hmm.
fathers to be able to lead the household. Look, as a leader, you're going to make mistakes. Okay, everyone makes mistakes, but just because you make a mistake, that doesn't mean you need to get voted off the island.
Right.
Right.
Now, if you're not learning from those mistakes and you're repeating those mistakes, and it's now to
There
the
you go.
detriment of your survival,
Hmm.
you might need to make a decision there. Sure, but if we examine how a significant portion of the population is raised, most of us are raised in single parent homes.
Hmm.
The overwhelming majority of those single parent homes are parented by mothers.
Hmm.
I'd like to present you with a, I guess it's a metaphor. It might be an analogy. I am baking a pizza.
Hmm.
I prepare the pizza. I get all the ingredients, the dough, the cheese, the whatever else you put into pizza. I've never made a pizza before. But I get all the ingredients together and I take that pizza. You and I, Candace, are making this pizza together.
Hmm.
We get all the ingredients, we put them together, we roll the dough, all the things. And then we put the pizza in the oven. And the moment you open the oven to put the pizza in there, I leave and I never come back. I just go away and I don't come back.
Hmm.
Whose responsibility is it? Who is responsible? Who is accountable if that pizza is burnt?
It's gonna be mine because I'm right there.
Wait. Say that a little bit slower. Who is accountable?
It'll be me too because I'm
It would be
standing in the
you. It would be
mixer.
you, right? It would be you
Yeah,
because you
yeah.
stayed there and you went through the entire process of the pizza in the oven. You should have been paying attention to it, but you was probably watching Love and Hip Hop or Real Housewives of wherever, and so the
Hmm.
pizza got burnt. Now you take the pizza out the oven and it's burnt to a crisp and it's not really edible. You toss it, you're angry, and you say, "Well, he left me, and it's his fault the pizza is burnt. And
Wow.
how dare him? And now this pizza is screwed up and look at it. There's nothing I can do with it. I can't fix it. I can't change it. I can't improve it. I could go make another pizza. But this one is ruined. This one is done, right?
Damn, that's a hell
You're
of an
pro-
analogy.
you're projecting there. You're
Yeah,
projecting.
that's yep.
I'm out of the picture.
Yeah.
I had
Mhm.
nothing to do with the baking of the pizza. Sure, I helped with the ingredients. I helped
Yep,
a
that's
little
it.
bit. I'll take the
Mhm.
credit for that little bit. But this pizza that is now ruined, I can't logically, rationally, reasonably accept responsibility for that. The majority of children are raised in single parent homes.
Mhm.
The majority of the single parent homes are parented by single mothers.
Mhm.
How then can we reasonably give credit to those fathers, for how that child turns out? The fact that that child is not an alpha male, the fact that that child is not a leader, the fact that he is not decisive, the fact that he or she doesn't make good decisions, the fact that he or she grows angrily, or they fold into themselves and don't know how to express themselves, or they lack intelligence because whoever is parenting them is not doing a good job with their education, so forth and so on. I cannot be
Mhm.
credited for that.
It go back to the
You,
mom too, though.
yeah, well, you as the primary parent, guardian, provider, protector, so forth and so on. All of that responsibility now falls on you,
Mhm.
100%. So when you say, why are there not alpha men in society? I would ask you that question. If you want
Mhm.
alpha men and women are raising these boys, raise them
That's
to be
why.
alpha males. That's the challenge right there.
Yeah,
Because it's
absolutely, it
exceedingly
is.
difficult for a woman to raise a boy to be an alpha male.
Yep. And
There's your
I'm one of
challenge.
those
So
mothers
and
because I
so
have a
so
son. Yes.
so instead of driving the fathers who are exceedingly important, necessary, and we're not even talking about. We didn't even get to the importance of a father's role in the life of a daughter. I don't even want to address that. That's a whole different
Yeah, that's a
can
whole
of
nother
worms.
Yeah.
Okay,
situation. Yeah.
seriously, it's something completely different, and you can see it
Yeah.
manifested in society today. But if you are incapable of doing that, don't drive that man away.
Mhm.
Put him in a chokehold and force him, whatever you got to do to be there, right? Because you don't want your boy to grow up to be what you don't want him to be. And in order for him to grow up to be what you want him to be, that man has to do his job. He has to do the work. I know plenty of fathers who have been driven away and
Mhm.
then are shamed and called deadbeats and so forth and so on. Countless. I know fathers who have lost access to their children simply because the mother was angry at the father about something he did. Now, you
Mhm.
imagine as a mother being deprived of access to your child, being deprived of a relationship with your child, being deprived of the opportunity to raise your child and watch them grow and develop into an adult because your male partner, the father of your child, was angry about something you did.
Mhm.
Most women would jump off a bridge,
Damn.
Mhm.
I hear
right?
you.
But these
Yeah.
same men, they go to work.
Mhm.
The same man that is driven from that family structure, from being a father, from being a parent to his child, from being a dad, he gets up and goes to work, accepting that reality. He is not happy about that. He's not reveling like, oh, I don't have to be. What if he really wants to be a dad and he's driven away? He still has to conduct his life like everything is fine. This is all normal, all while watching the mother of his child being celebrated constantly, repeatedly, all while being reminded of it on a daily basis by seeing women celebrated with their children, all while still knowing the statistics relative to households and parenting, and the fact that his child is now growing up in the same kind of household that you say we don't need because it's not conducive to raising the kind of boys and men boys into men that we want. He gets to
Mm-hmm.
stand back and watch all that happen and has to carry on like everything is okay. And there are numerous men out here like that. Sure, there are terrible fathers as well. There are abusive men as well. There are violent men as well. And men run the gamut from A to Z. Okay. But that doesn't
Mm-hmm.
make up the majority of us. And that
Nope.
cannot be the
No.
narrative. That is the narrative that has to be changed. Men are more susceptible to violence than women are. I would make
Mm-hmm.
that argument. When two men meet
Mm-hmm.
each other for the first time, they know that there's a potential for violence. That's
Mm-hmm.
why there's respect between them. If I meet Q for the first time, this is my first time meeting Q. Sarah, you introduced me to Q, and I make a derogatory statement to Q. He's not going to take that lightly. And now
Mm-hmm.
there's tension between me and him. And that tension can lead to violence. Men know that. So we carry
Mm-hmm.
respect. We're going to bring respect because we know that there's always a potential for violence. Men are significantly more susceptible to violence in society than women. Yet we often talk about how, uh, women being victims. Absolutely, I'm not discounting that. Women are definitely victims a lot, and it shouldn't be that way. No one should be victimized, right? But what I'm saying is I'm not discounting the fact that there are many women who are victimized. I'm not discounting that for a second.
Mm-hmm.
We never discuss the men who were victimized,
Mm-hmm. Sometimes
right?
we don't know because some men don't want to even discuss it or disclose it, so they'll just act on it. You have men that's been sexually molested, they getting physically beat up at home or even by their wives and whatever. I definitely, yes, I agree with you with that. But then you have men that they don't talk about it. So a lot of times we society they don't know that these men
Those
are being,
A lot of
abused and
those men
stuff.
are raised in a particular kind of household and taught a certain kind of way. They experience life
Mhm.
in a particular kind of way. It sets a precedent for them, and so they carry themselves in society, acknowledging that and following that precedent.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
So,
really that simple,
so
right?
real quick, I just wanted to say too, when you was talking about the propensity for violence between two men is always there, but I think something that women don't necessarily recognize either is that sometimes you guys disregard our safety as well. That comes from the
Mhm.
aspect of knowing that you're dealing with this certain individual and still inviting me into the fold. You are setting me up for potential violence, and a lot of women don't
Mhm.
even see that. Sometimes you guys are the catalyst to probably about 70 to 80% of our violence. And I don't think a
Mhm.
lot of women even understand that. Um, Most people or most dudes who die young or are in prison is over a female, bro. Like
Yeah,
straight
with
up.
baby daddy, with all that baby daddy
Yeah,
drama and stuff
for
like that.
sure.
Yeah, these women they do
For
that.
sure.
I agree,
I can
most
I can
definitely.
definitely associate quite a few instances where I got myself into situations and the root cause was a woman. There was a woman behind
Uh
it. Quite numerous, right? I
Mhm.
can
Exactly.
definitely think of multiple situations like that. And
Yep.
that's a very good point, Q. I think there's a lot of people,
Mhm.
specifically women, who do not acknowledge that fact. Okay,
Hmm.
I'm telling
Look
you,
out for my safety.
look out for
Exactly.
my
You
safety
better.
too, because
Yep.
when we're out in a public space, somebody says something disrespectful to you. You start going over. Maybe you throw a drink on this person or you slap them. You
Yeah.
don't know this person. I
You
don't
then
know
put you
this
at
person.
risk.
You don't know what they're capable of, but you just
Yep.
respond emotionally. Now, 14 guys come from over there, and I
Yep.
have to address this. You're not
Mhm.
going to address it. They're
And if
going to
I
beat
don't,
me to
if
a
I
pulp.
don't address it, then I'm not an alpha.
Yep.
Right, right. So exactly.
See what I'm saying?
Women don't think about that. They put their guys
Yeah.
in those situations
Hmm.
often, like all the time, with the simplest
Mhm.
things. And it puts that man in a position where now he's faced with potential violence.
Me and my mom just had
Not
this
only do a lot of
conversation. Yes.
I think a lot of women don't give consideration to that, but they also don't give consideration to the repercussions of those situations because your view of him, if he loses in that conflict, will change.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
completely. So now
for
you
sure.
subjected him to that situation, and now he is diminished by it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a no,
Yep.
it's a lose-lose situation.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And and I'll
Yep.
tell you this, though most men are capable of defending themselves and the person they're with, all men are not built for combat.
Yeah,
Okay,
Simple as
exactly.
that.
Yep.
all men are not. So now you subjecting this man who is not specifically built and designed for that kind of combat to that kind of combat without giving any
Mhm.
regard to what is going to happen to him.
Right.
Yeah, it goes to women that even dress certain ways. Like you put yourself in man and putting your man in certain situations by dressing certain ways. You know the attention that you're gonna attract with that little hoochie mama dress or whatever you got
Not the
on,
hoochie
and
mama.
you causing issues that way. And then I had an argument, with somebody a couple of months ago about that mom that put her son at risk. That boy, I think the mom went and got mom and the son was in a restaurant. I don't know if y'all heard about that. And a guy came at the mother, like just yelling at her and just all out of line.
Hmm.
Instead of her taking her son and walking away and going to the car, getting in her car and going somewhere else to go eat, she stands there and she argues with this man. Why are you
She knew
arguing with this man?
she knew
And
her
you know
son had
your
a gun.
exactly was in
She
the
knew
car. So
she
she tells her son to go to the car, and then now you're still continuing to argue with this man. So now this man has put his hands on you. So now your son is forced to go in the car, get this gun, and he shoot. That was all her fault. And nobody in society felt as though it was her fault. No, she should have took self accountability and said, "Get in the car, son. Let's go and let's pull off. We will go eat somewhere else. Put yourself and your son in safety because you are a woman. You cannot beat no man. And you shouldn't be sitting up here arguing with him to the point where he puts his hands on you. It shouldn't even went that far. As soon as that man said something, me and I have a son. My son is 22 years old. That would have been me. And that man would I wouldn't even talk, son, come on, let's go. I wouldn't even have my son saying anything to him. Be quiet and let's go. We're going to exit and leave. And everything would have been done. Like I don't
Hmm.
understand that.
a lot of women in society today are following uh they're following social media and what all those what all of those constructs and what they do. And uh they value the things they value are bizarre to me, right?
Facts.
Yeah,
Because most of the things that they value are not real and they're not realistic
it's
at all.
delusional as hell. It's materialistic stuff and money and dumb stuff. Hair and
Right.
BBLs and all this eyelashes and makeup is what they doing now. So
That 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 I think remains a major part of the problem, because if you can be influenced and led to believe something just because someone said it on a video,
hmm
something that could potentially put your partner in mortal danger, you are a problem. You are
hmm
the problem.
Yep.
And they put the partner in this kind of danger without any kind of consideration to the consequences and repercussions. You're not going to get
hmm
punched in the face. I got to stand in front of this punch now.
Yep.
Right.
Okay. I've been punched in the face before. It's not a great feeling. I didn't like it. One star I
Yeah.
would not recommend. Okay. It was not fun. I've been punched in the face repeatedly. I've been in many, many fights. When I was growing up, I had a bunch of friends
Same.
and we always got into fights for whatever reason. And, I experienced a punch to the face. Now, now, now I'm in a relationship. I got a girlfriend. She's never had a fight. She's never been punched in the face. Yet she is jabbing her finger in this guy's face and going all crazy, knowing he's not going to hit her and I'm going to have to step in and experience that punch. That is not
hmm
fair.
No,
That
it's
is not
not.
right.
Not at all.
You're right. I agree.
I think you should
And
be clear. I think you should be clear. Well, I was clear with my relationship. I told my honey, I was like, listen, if we're out and about and a man makes a negative remark about me, you do not respond to that. You do not say anything. We will walk away. You do not have to defend me. If they call me the B word, whatever they say about me that's negative, remember they don't know me and they want to get a reaction from me. We're not gonna give it to them. We're walking the opposite way. The only time we're gonna have to take action is if they come up on us after so many yards or feet, if they're intent on bringing harm, if the words are not getting a response and they're trying to physically hurt us, then yeah, we're gonna have to defend ourselves. And I say we
Right.
because I want to be a part of it. And with my background, I will handle it just because of my background, the career that I have. And I told him, I'm not, I come
So
here
you
to
handling
live.
business.
I'm not going to die
Okay.
for stupid stuff. So I walk away. You can talk about me till the cows go home. Just don't put your hands on me. And I'm going to make sure that it's not an engagement. I'm walking away. I'm turning my back on you. I'm
Mm.
telling you, it doesn't matter. You can call me all the names you want to. You can say all you want to. I had to deal with this at my job. It's customer service. You don't give people their way, they cuss you out. That's fine. Keep talking. Do not think that I am here to be physically abused because I'm not. And I tell you,
Hmm.
I can fight, but I choose not to fight. And
Hmm.
I'll tell you this much.
even
There are.
endangering my man. I don't believe now. I don't believe in endangering anybody. And
Hmm.
when I'm with my family and we're out, you know, I want to take action, but I realize they don't have the training and the skills that I do. So I have to keep them safe. I have to drive away. I have to walk away. I have to get on the phone and call 911. Because
I think, and I don't mean to cut you, sir, but I just want to speak to a point that you just made. I don't know if it's necessarily realistic to think that way. You tell your guy, listen, if someone says something disrespectful to me, don't say anything at all. In my view, instead of that, don't be the woman that man would want to disrespect.
Hmm.
And that is something that you can address that easily. It's literally about how you carry yourself. You
Hmm.
I've seen countless couples in public, and I'm not a disrespectful person by nature, but I would never even consider to disrespect them because she looks like a respectable person. He
Hmm.
looks like a respectable person. Disrespect doesn't come. It doesn't appear to me, to do that to them. Unfortunately, not everyone thinks like me, right? So some people are going to be disrespectful no matter what, and you have to watch out for them.
Yeah.
What in that case, you are not carrying yourself like a person who wants disrespect, but they're going to disrespect you anyway. So how you feel about me interacting with them is completely out the window because now I have to, right?
fortunately,
Because the
I've never had that when I'm with him. It has never occurred, but he did
but
tell me about friends of his who had to take action. But when alcohol or drugs are involved, and your behavior changes, that influences
Hmm.
the way you act and think and stuff, then yeah, there is a possibility that you're not carrying yourself in a respectable manner. So people will disrespect you. But that never occurred. But I always tell them, I say, well, listen, if we out and somebody get crazy because they drink and they want to say something to me and I ignore them and they feel like I shouldn't ignore them and they start talking, no, no.
what I'm saying is in that is I'm gonna tell you like this because I've seen it happen. In that instance, let's say I'm the guy. If you ignore me, I'm probably going to persist. Okay, so let's see how far. Let's see what kind of man you're with. If he's going to continue to ignore me, because what a lot of those kind of guys will do is they will go from making those disrespectful comments or remarks to you and start and turn them on that man,
Right.
and they
Hmm.
will weaponize it against that man. Oh, so you with a man that ain't even going to defend you? Why are you going to be with him? So forth and so
Hmm.
on. So it's not always so black and white where you can say, "Oh, he said something disrespectful. Just ignore that." It's not. It's not always that cut and dry. Some men, those kind of men, can be very persistent,
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
That was
and
if they're intoxicated or whatever. It just doesn't matter. We can
without with
we can arms away.
without intoxication.
Yeah. Well, and
That's just the way some people
I,
are.
I haven't
True.
I haven't had that, and I haven't had that. And like you
Be
say, when you
thankful.
carry yourself a certain way,
Be very thankful. Be thankful. You've never been a man with a beautiful woman.
Well,
Do
let me
things
just
for
say
by
this:
your
Mm.
son.
if you carry yourself a certain way, they can tell. You don't, because certain guys, like sagging guys and do rag guys,
not
and
the do rag guys.
certain kind of guys, they don't even approach me. I don't. I
Hang
don't.
on, what's wrong with do-rags?
I
They
don't
keep
have
your
that.
waves. I don't wait. What's the problem
I'm
here?
just saying. I
Some
have
girls, bonnet girls and
no. Listen, I
hairnet
look
girls,
a certain way that
they
certain
keep
type
your
of
hair.
men, certain type of
It's a do-rag. I mean, it's designed to keep your hair. I'm
I'm just
confused. Why would I'm just saying why we taking shots at do-rags. I'm not a do-rag advocate or anything.
It sound like it. It sound like it.
I'm
I'm a
just
male
saying
advocate, I say.
the
Shout out
way
to Wendell
I
Durag.
the way that my appearance and my demeanor is, I don't get approached by uh teenagers and 20-year-olds, and I don't get that. I haven't got that in a long time, over 20 years. And it has to be the way that I carry myself. And
Yeah,
if
but
they
he's
slip
still
up,
saying even though it could
and
still
if they
happen though.
even slip up and say, "Can I get that number?" I can cut a look. And I was like, my man would not want me to share me. So something nice, but not too demeaning to them. And then it's gone.
Oh
And
wait,
that has happened. And
that
that
is
has
a
only happened
fantasy
maybe
world
once.
that you
But
live
I
in.
don't get that. I don't
Yes.
get that.
That
Yes,
is a
because they
fantasy
don't
world
they
you
not
live in.
they're
Please
not
send
they're
me a
still gonna
postcard.
respond
But
different.
no,
Yeah. They still
but
I hear
you,
you, but they're gonna still respond in the way that they want to respond because yeah,
I'm
my
talking
it's
about,
been a long
I'm
time.
not talking about, I'm not talking about, well, maybe if we, and what I'm telling you what happened, because this is who I am and what I do.
Hmm.
I
And I'm
think
not,
how you carry yourself speaks volumes for sure
I'm
in
not,
all those
okay,
instances.
I don't play games with people, and I don't give you false hope. You don't,
Right.
I don't give anybody
But
false hope. If there's not a
how,
chance for me, there's not a chance for me. But like I said, I haven't had just anybody just don't approach me.
well, what I'm saying is you are speaking more as the exception than the rule. That's the
I am the
first thing.
exception. I'm
Right.
definitely the
So
exception. I know
right,
that.
right.
And people around me know that I am the exception. And I don't hide it. I am who
So
I am. I worked on this. And so
so
I don't get
so
just anybody talking to me any kind of way and thinking they can say what they want to say or whatever. I am intentional, and I command my respect. I command.
okay, and okay,
So,
I can appreciate that.
so he told me the story about his
You have
friend.
not been
I'll
a
let him
place.
know, because he was like, "Well, if that was you, babe," I said, "No, it won't be me. And even if that does happen, we're gonna walk away from that, because I have too much to lose for you to get in an argument about somebody calling me a name. I've been called
How,
that forever. It doesn't matter."
Sarah, how you carry yourself is everything
Exactly.
when you're out with that man. Okay, let me be clear. Let me be very, very clear.
Okay.
How you carry yourself, how you present yourself is everything when you're out with that man. Not only are you representatives of each other, but it tells everyone who sees you, everyone who interacts with you, it it gives them a format as to how to interact with you. If you look like if you're dressed if you're wearing a fallacious woman's outfit in public, then you can't feel any kind of way when you're approached by guys a particular kind of way.
Hmm.
That's like me wearing a cop's uniform. I've heard somebody use this example, and being out in public and somebody runs up to me and they need help. They're like, "You're a police." And I'm like, "I'm not a cop. I just like to
Hmm.
wear this outfit."
I know
You
where
know,
this is
Hmm.
going.
don't don't come to me
Right.
for help. Why would I help you? I don't even do this. It's not what I do. I work in a grocery store. I just wanted to wear this outfit. If you're wearing a fallacious woman's outfit in public, and y'all know what I'm talking about,
Hmm.
if you look the part, then that's what you're going to attract. If you
Hmm.
don't look the part, if that is not your presentation, if that's not how you carry yourself, there are individuals who will still try you on that level because
Yep.
they look at
Anyway.
all men or all women one particular kind of way, and so they'll still
Mhm.
try you. And in that instance, you're going to have other deterrents, right? But if more often than not, and it's more likely that if you are carrying yourself in a respectable way, uh, even the most vile of men are going to feel some type of way of approaching you like that. They're
Mhm.
gonna, inside them, they're gonna be like, "Man, she's not the one." She's, and maybe that's how that you come across. She's just not the one to mess with like that. She's not the one to play with. Whether or not your guy is there, the fact that you carry yourself that way represents you that way, and so it tailors their approach. They tailor their approach based on that. If you're out here twerking in videos and you're wearing the mini skirt and you carrying on like a fool and when those guys see you in public, that's the image they have of you. They're gonna be their approach.
Mhm.
True.
Don't get me into a fight.
Okay.
Bottom
Dress
At
line.
all.
Bottom line.
dress dress appropriately. Carry yourself appropriately.
Mhm.
Be demure and the
I ain't
kind of
heard that
woman.
word in
Yeah,
years.
represent yourself because that's how I'm going to be in public with you. I'm going to represent you. No one is going to do. I've never been in a situation where that has happened to me. I can't speak from experience about these kind of things because you know what?
Mm-mm.
When I'm out with my lady, we don't get disrespected. It's not going to happen
Nope.
because we carry ourselves. First of all, we carry
Mhm.
ourselves in such a way that we don't attract that. And second of all, we don't put ourselves in those kind of environments.
That's
They,
what I was gonna
I
say.
was
The
gonna
bottom.
say,
We're not.
Just don't go to those
where
places
are you
anymore.
Yep.
going to get talked that
Okay.
way? Yeah, it's
We're
crazy.
not. We're not.
Yep.
Right.
Mhm.
We don't put ourselves in that environment, which
Right.
lessens the likelihood of that being the experience.
That's
Yes.
it right
And
there.
so,
Mhm.
to a certain extent, I kind of got jaded because I'm like, nobody. And we never have any those kind of issues. No, we never have those problems ever.
Right.
Mhm.
And so I took a step back and I examined, well, why is it like that for us and it's not like that for the next couple? And
Mhm.
externally it's easy to tell. Most of the time you can see it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
uh
Yep.
I just, again, I don't think a lot of women give consideration to the mortal danger they put their guys in many situations,
Yep.
and it's
It's a
it's
lot of
very
women
sad.
don't take self accountability for anything. That's another issue within itself.
Accountabilities, it seems like kryptonite for a lot of women, but there are a
Mhm.
lot of accountable women too. And what I think, which is really kind of funny, I think the more accountable a woman is, the more accountable her man will be.
Mhm.
Mm,
Absolutely.
He's
Yep.
that's a
not going to
fact.
want her to be more accountable than him.
Yep.
Furthermore,
Absolutely.
most men accept and acknowledge the fact that most women lack accountability. They dodge
Yep.
accountability like Neo dodged bullets in the Matrix. No, not me,
Yep.
Patty. Not today. You're not
And
touching
then be
me
moving that slow mo too, like ew.
back.
I was
you
one
know,
of them, so I already know. And I was during the time before I started healing. You have women that just don't want to face that either. Healing is not easy. Healing from childhood trauma, healing from things that's happened to you in your life. A lot of women don't want to speak on that, and they don't want to face that because they don't want to feel the pain. They don't want to go through that motion of understanding what did you do in those situations. You are in relationships like me. After I got out of the relationships I got in, I actually had the opportunity to sit down and you have to do some reflective thinking and say, well, what is it that you did, Candace, to cause this situation? Because it's not only just him, it's you too. So it takes two of us, and you need to sit down, you reflect, and then the next relationship you go into, not to do it again. So I don't look at, my marriages that I had, all three of them, I don't look at them as losses. I do not regret them. I looked at them as lessons, as a blueprint to get to wherever I need to get to for my next relationships and moving forward. I don't know what to do and what not to do anymore. And I take that into account and say, okay, but for one thing too, you have to sit there and look at yourself first. And most women, they are not going to do that because society has told them to look outside of themselves. Everybody looks on the outside. And then when it comes to healing, nobody heals from the inside and out. You can't heal from the outside in. And that's what I do on my podcast. I'm really, really trying to push that for women to take self accountability also for their actions when it's in these relationships. So,
Right.
women, especially rape victims and women of that nature, I've been through that myself too. You take self accountability to a certain point when it comes to rape victims because you didn't ask, and I don't care if a woman walking down the street and she got on just some panties and a t-shirt. She still does not deserve to be raped and pulled
Right.
into an alley by a man. I understand that. But what society would tell a woman is you shouldn't have had that outfit on. No, you now we gotta go to him and see why was his actions in a way and why did he do that to me? Because I didn't give him permission to take that from me. Now, if she did not learn her lesson that second time and she go twiddle her little butt down the street again,
Now
after
it's on
that
her. It's
situation,
on her.
now it's on her, and she has to
Yeah.
be able to take self accountability. She can't claim victim at that point.
Can
So,
I ask you a question?
mhm,
Since we're on the subject,
Excuse me.
mhm,
uh, do you believe there would be an increase or decrease in sexual assault and things of that nature projected on women if there were no rules and laws against it in society?
Oh
mm,
It,
damn.
which is to say, if the,
hmm.
if a man could commit that act and not be penalized for it, do you think the potential of that? Do you think there's potential that would increase, or it would decrease, or stay the same?